your roadmap to the latest in auto. Welcome to Highway Herald. April 2025 marks a high-octane turning point in America's political and economic landscape. President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, meant to spark a manufacturing revival, have ignited a firestorm of backlash, shaking markets and jolting the auto industry. No sector feels the shock more than electric vehicles, now caught in a global tug-of-war between politics, profits, and power. This isn't just trade policy, it's a gear-grinding showdown. Buckle up as we break down 5 critical shifts shaping the EV race and the future of global auto dominance. Number 5. Streets over speeches, when protests became the people's horsepower. Just hours after the tariffs were announced, America didn't just respond, it erupted. Over 1,400 hands-off protests ignited in all 50 states, and this wasn't limited to the usual political battlegrounds. Places like Missouri, Ohio, and Iowa, heartland states that once cheered Trump's industrial revival promises, became epicenters of unrest. From courthouse steps to highway overpasses, Americans from every walk of life gathered with a unifying cry: these tariffs are hurting, not helping. Their outrage wasn't theoretical, it was personal. People had already seen pensions vanish, healthcare crumble, and now their wallets were being gutted by inflation and price hikes. Laid-off auto workers marched alongside immigrant families and environmental activists. Hands off wasn't just a protest chant, it was a plea for survival. Missouri's Columbia and Jefferson City stood out. At Boone County Courthouse, Representative David Tyson Smith didn't hold back, criticizing both Trump and Elon Musk, whom protesters accused of acting like an unelected overlord under his new federal role. From Detroit students to California EV engineers and Ohio mechanics, this wasn't just political noise. It was a movement with motor oil in its veins. And as the streets filled with outrage, global markets were just beginning to feel the tremors. Number 4. Trade tremors, how tariffs shifted the global gears. The impact of the tariffs didn't stall at U.S. borders. It careened across the global trade landscape like a runaway rig. Major trade partners including Canada, Mexico, the European Union, and China retaliated almost immediately, targeting a wide swath of American goods, from auto parts to consumer electronics. In mere days, the global economy found itself on the brink of a full-blown trade war. Europe struck hard. The EU rolled out over $20 billion in counter-tariffs, slapping US-made vehicles and components with steep penalties. German automakers, already uneasy about Washington's protectionist shift, began to pivot. Jaguar Land Rover froze its U.S. exports. Mercedes-Benz mulled cutting operations at its Alabama plant. And in the U.K., Prime Minister Keir Starmer faced pressure from automakers demanding urgent subsidies. China took a surgical approach, imposing a 34% tariff on American imports while restricting rare earth exports critical to EVs and semiconductors. Tesla and Rivian took immediate hits. Japan and South Korea urged diplomacy but prepared for impact. Then came Vietnam, pitching a zero-tariff trade deal to lure U.S. firms. In the chaos, automakers like BYD and Hyundai saw not just disruption, but opportunity. Before we delve deeper, we'd appreciate it if you could subscribe to Highway Herald. Your support fuels our passion to create more content like this. Now, while governments played tariff chess, the EV supply chain was quietly taking a hit where it hurt the most, under the hood. Number 3. Battery breakdown, when EV dreams faced a detour. Electric vehicles were once the crown jewel of the green revolution, sleek, efficient, and set to overtake internal combustion. But under President Trump's aggressive tariff push, the EV sector is quickly losing traction. Critical components like lithium-ion batteries and semiconductors, essential to every modern EV, are now tangled in costly trade barriers. As a result, producing electric vehicles in the US has become significantly more expensive, derailing timelines and inflating prices across the board. Tesla is already under pressure. Facing internal setbacks at its Texas Gigafactory, the company now also contends with a 25% tariff on battery imports from its Shanghai facility. While Elon Musk has publicly voiced support for Trump's economic approach, Tesla's Q1 deliveries dropped 13%, and the company shed $40 billion in market value in just 1 week. Consumers are starting to balk. Formerly loyal Tesla fans are turning away, concerned by the company's perceived political ties. Rivian, Lucid, Ford, and GM have all warned of delays and rising costs. Ford is scaling back F-150 Lightning production, and GM has halted a key battery project in Michigan. Meanwhile, overseas rivals like BYD and Hyundai are gaining ground, fast. And with the supply chain unraveling, the C-suite pressure began to build like a misfiring piston. Number 2, boardroom breakdown, when industry leaders hit the brakes. While the streets echoed with chants and raised signs, America's boardrooms were no longer a place of quiet calculation. The titans of corporate America, particularly in finance, tech, and auto, found themselves face to face with harsh financial realities, and the long-standing silence began to crack. For years, these corporate leaders balanced Trump's populist rhetoric with shareholder interests. But as the economic fallout from the tariffs deepened, even the most loyal business allies started sounding alarms. Ford CEO Jim Farley warned of billion-dollar losses if tariff conditions persisted. GM projected that nearly 70% of its future EV lineup could be affected by rising import costs. Tesla, once seen as untouchable, watched its stock tumble and investor confidence waver. Elon Musk quietly pivoted from support to strategy, lobbying for a US-EU zero-tariff deal. The shift was telling. When profits stall, even visionaries adjust course. Republican megadonors like Daniel Loeb, Bill Ackman, and Doug Deason began expressing serious concerns. Auto suppliers scaled back contracts. Dealerships saw foot traffic vanish. Globally, BMW, Volkswagen, and major Asian automakers reconsidered US investments. This wasn't just turbulence, it was a crisis of confidence. And as pressure mounted from Wall Street to Main Street, the biggest question loomed. Can the US still steer the global road ahead? Number 1, high-stakes highway. Can the US navigate the global curve? At the center of Trump's economic offensive lies a geopolitical gamble, with the global auto industry both battleground and bounty. These sweeping tariffs haven't just rewritten the trade playbook, they've torn it to shreds. Since World War II, the US helped engineer the very framework of global automotive supply chains. Now, it's attempting to rebuild that system on its own terms. But the world isn't idling. Canada, the EU, and Japan are countersteering fast. The EU is rolling out aggressive EV incentives. China, never one to sit in the rear view, is revving up its Made in China 2025 strategy, wielding EV supremacy and rare earth exports as power plays. Their message is loud. This is about leverage, not just trade. American automakers, Ford, GM, Rivian, Tesla, are left recalibrating under pressure. Can they innovate while costs soar? Can they remain competitive in a fragmented market? Meanwhile, Vietnam and India are luring US firms with zero tariff promises. The EU's talking battery alliances, without US involvement. Trump's approval slides as voices like Senator Cory Booker call this a generational mistake. The finish line is unclear, but one thing is certain. The auto world has hit a critical fork in the road. Crossroads of consequence, engine of change or road to ruin. From the streets to the boardrooms, from Detroit to Dusseldorf, Trump's tariff push has become a critical turning point in the global auto landscape. What started as a political maneuver to protect domestic industry has ignited widespread protests, shaken corporate confidence, and jammed the gears of the EV revolution. This isn't just an economic disruption, it's a full-blown geopolitical fault line. America's auto industry, once the blueprint for global success, now finds itself squeezed between nationalist policy and an increasingly interconnected world shifting in new directions. The question is no longer just about trade, it's about whether the US can remain competitive while isolating itself, or whether it must evolve its strategies to keep pace with an accelerating global EV market. With trade routes changing and investment shifting to more stable shores, the pressure is mounting from both within and beyond US borders. Where do you stand? Are tariffs reshaping American resilience or stalling innovation? Has this changed how you view EVs or automakers? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Highway Herald for more updates on the road ahead. Thanks for watching and see you next time. You can now check out any of the videos on the screen. There's more exciting and informative content waiting for you.